Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Sports Report. This is the Sports Report After Dark. I am your host, Tony Glasso. With me is my partner in crime, because he's got a restraining order that prevents him from going most other places, Dan the Dick Warner. What's up, buddy?
Tony, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm so glad we finally get to do this.
Long time coming, huh?
We've been,
man. That's what I was going to say. We've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Hey, inaugural schnapps.
There you go. Schnapps?
Schnapps. 3 schnapps.
Schnapps. You got to have the schnapps. Oh, by the way, just for everybody that's tuning in, this is going to be a very adult conversation as we dive into different topics that relate to the sports world and, the human psyche in general. We're gonna get real with it here. So you're gonna hear language. You're gonna hear inappropriate jokes. We don't care if you're offended. Just know from the bottom of our hearts, we love you, but we don't give a fuck.
Did I just prompt Josh to run the explicit thing already? I think I just prompted him to run the explicit thing already. He was like,
it's
plastered up there.
The whole thing for him, I think he probably had to drink a Red Bull right before the show. That way he's awake enough to get through this to make sure, because he's going to have to run that fucking thing multiple times.
Right.
It's just, at some point, we're probably just going to put it as our backdrop. I mean, we'll see what happens. But so tonight for our inaugural episode, we did kind of a preview the other night, last week, that you had to miss out because of some unfortunate technical issues. Talking about the issue with Richard Sherman.
Right.
And for our first full episode, though, we're going to talk about something, may not be the forefront of a football fan's mind, but it's definitely really interesting to dive into. The 2001 Miami Hurricanes college football team.
Oh, the greatest college football roster of all time.
All time. Absolutely.
You're talking about Frank Gore, Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee, running back depth chart at a college school. All time.
Yeah, it's the absolute best of all time in every sense of the word. You can't you can't really rival it. I mean, and that's the thing is you've got. I mean, and Willis McGahee was just a freshman.
Right.
For that year, for the 2001 year.
Clinton Portis was the starter. Tore his
he
ACL
was the starting running back. And then you also had Frank Gore.
Frank Gore.
Who's ever heard of that guy?
Taking 8 carries a game at that college school. One of the greatest running backs to ever play in the NFL. Just out there taking second team cuts when he's a junior. Let's just start with that running back depth chart. The defense is stupid. Philip Buchanan, Ed Reed was on that team. Jonathan Vilma. This is just off the top of my head. Jeremy Shockey and Kellen Winslow Jr. Clinton Portis starts on that team as a running back. Tore his leg it went sideways in an L in the national title game.
I remember that.
Against Nebraska. The dude jumped at his knee and the bottom part went backward and just imagine one of those skeletons that you get for Halloween, the ball joint on the knee part. If you just rip that to the side, that's what it looked like, kind of. If you just kind of let it hang there.
I think on the college level, the only other injury that I remember that was just was it that Duke player, Kentucky player, where he broke it? He came down off of a shot, and his leg broke so bad the bone was sticking out. You remember that?
Yeah.
Just nasty.
I mean, I watched the Gordon Hayward one live, where he's going up for the layup. It was on a Sunday showcase NBA game on ABC, and he went up and his foot hit between the pad on the bottom of the hoop. And it literally his foot just kind of hit at an angle on it and broke his tibia in half, broke it backward. Oh yeah, dude. There were dudes crying. There were players crying on the floor because of the carnage that they just witnessed.
How could you not?
Dude. Ugh. Luckily he had long socks on because there was blood on the sock. So that thing was sticking through the skin. And you just couldn't
absolutely.
see it because of his sock.
Yeah.
Whew. Anyway.
Yeah, that was the I remember because I didn't see that live, but I saw a video of it after. And like I watched it and then I was just like
from somebody who has to watch every single one of those when it happens. Like I'm pretty sure me and you scrambled for like 2 hours when the what's his name? Conor McGregor. See, I already forgot his name. That's how I'm forgetting his now.
Oh yeah, when we were trying to see the video of that. Oh god.
Trying to see the video of it. Like just a joyous morbidity we were taking out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was a joyous morbidity.
Yeah. Clinton Portis was the starter for that team, though.
Yes.
Clinton Portis was the starter for that team. Andre Johnson was their number one wide receiver. Andre Johnson. Also, this is just on top, slot receiver. Philip Dorsey. Philip Dorsey played for the Colts for a little while.
Yeah.
In the 2000s.
Or no,
he was on that team. Ken Dorsey.
Oh no, Ken Dorsey was the quarterback. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it was
little slot wide receiver. You know what I'm talking about.
Wait, are you talking about Dale Jones?
No.
Wasn't Jason Gesser?
I need to get my my research computer screen upgrade here on the old house, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have many research tools. Off the top of a drunken brain.
Off the top of a drunken brain, which is honestly usually better for you. Like, let's just be real. You sober is really not something people want to experience.
No. No.
But I mean, you've also got Ken Dorsey is a quarterback and Derek Cutup was a backup. But that running back depth chart alone still just blows my mind.
Bryant McKinney started at left tackle. He was a longtime Minnesota Viking left tackle, all pro.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah. And then you got Ed Reed on the defense over there, safety. That was his senior year.
Jeremy Shockey is your starting tight end.
Yeah.
Brett Rom. I don't know if you recognize that name. He was a center guard for the Lions for a long time. Thick white.
Kellen Winslow was on that roster too.
Who? Kellen Winslow Jr. Yep, he was the second string tight end, freshman. It's insane. It's insanity. A couple years before that, they had Ray Lewis on the roster. So
there was a string. What was it? Almost a solid decade where they turned out a lot of NFL talent.
Well, the management in Miami obviously went to Larry Coker and was like, "Hey, Larry, are you okay if we pay these players money to come here?" And he was like, "Please pay the players money to come here." And he was like, "Thank you." And they were like, "No, thank you, Larry." And then they fucking won national titles. That's what happened.
Well, so I want to talk about this because especially with the NIL stuff, I know we kind of talked about that earlier on the sports report. So with the NIL stuff, I know that you have a little bit of experience around the college sports side of it.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously there were different ways, and we can't go into specifics. We don't want anybody getting in trouble or anything. But there were different ways that players get paid at college level. They call them living stipends, the benefits are tucked into different other things.
Right.
But they're getting money.
Most of them at a very early age, they started coming from just academic. Dude, I didn't have to do homework in high school, bro. For real. Like, I didn't have to do homework. My junior and senior year in high school, I did not have to do homework because they were just like, yeah, just keep them eligible. And that's in high school, bro, in Nebraska. Imagine what level this happens at bigger schools in Texas 5A and stuff like that, where these kids are playing dude, these kids are getting advantages from a very young age. They start to believe in those advantages and think that they're real all the time, which does something like a Richard Sherman case, does something to you emotionally, right? But
there's a psychological part with that though. let's hit on this because you and I have kind of talked about this, but it's never been more of an open thing. And I like this conversation. When you talk about these players, these elite players, and this isn't just limited to football. This is basketball, baseball,
Right.
hockey. You go up into Canada, those kids that are bred for hockey hear the same thing. If you spend all this time hearing that you're great, when it all finally starts to slip away, because we all know athletes have a shelf life, like they start to crack because it's not real.
Right. And it's such a huge part of who they are at that point. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because of these advantages that have been giving to them and things like that their entire life, they think that's a structural part of who they are as a person, right? That they play this sport. And it is to a certain degree. It allows people to do all sorts of things. Like, one of the things for me was taking out stress and anxiety and things like that. Like, in a not even in like a game, just like getting it out when you're working out and after, you know what I'm saying, like practices and stuff like that, gets that physical energy out of you and you feel a lot better as a person, for one. Like, that's just off the top, right? And then incorporate that into all of these advantages that you're getting from it. And like, it's a structural part of who you are at that point, especially if you're a professional athlete. Like, that's not just you now, that's these networks of people that are relying on how much money that you make. Do you know what I'm saying? And how much like influence that you have in a community. Like, there's a lot of people relying on you.
So let me ask you this. So we understand that these kids are getting paid in some way, whether at that college level or even sometimes even at the high school level, because they want to be at that specific high school. Right. Because especially in the big football areas, like down in Texas, on the East Coast, in some of the rural areas, especially, that football team, that Friday night football team, that's money. That's money for the school. That's money for the area, because people are spending money at the businesses and all of that. So it is a part of the economy.
Right.
Is there a way that you put these players in the position to succeed without continuing to just hand them everything, so that they can be still mentally set up for success after the game ends?
Have somebody literally there, like, who's that old Roman emperor that used to have that guy follow him around, and the only thing the dude said to him was, "You are just a man. You are just a man." And that's all he said to him, because he was an emperor. He was a god, like, amongst all these people. And you got to have somebody in your corner that just does that. It's got to be like, "Hey, bro, you're not even the best wide receiver in the fucking district, bro. Like, you need to get better. Like, you're not not the best. You're not in the NFL yet."
And you would think that now common sense would dictate, like, for me, for my circle, like, I like to have people that are honest with me. That's why you're one of my best friends, because I know that you and I can talk and you'll call me out on my bullshit, and vice versa. That's the friendship that we have.
Right.
And, at our level of humanity, that's a common thing. You want people around you that make you better and motivate you.
Sure.
Why is it, or is there a reason why that doesn't happen at those higher levels, where they have that person that's there that's real and saying, "Hey, look, you're fucking up, bud."
At some point for those guys and those women, it has to be literally that the people around them the people around them that are trying to just kind of suckle off of that success and that all of that, that good energy that person is bringing because of their, prowess and athletics or whatever they're trying to bring around them. They just push the person that's naysaying out of the thing, because obviously everybody likes to hear what they want to hear, right? Like, everybody, like, people want to be complimented, and these guys are falling into that, because it'd be so hard not to. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I wouldn't be any better, dude. I'd have been the worst, bro. I'd have been out there like Lamar Odom and fucking Korea and shit, just out there just hookers and like heroin and just playing a basketball game. I'd be Dennis Rodman, the white guy, for real. I wouldn't be able to handle it, but some of these guys handle it really well. And like, you gotta have. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think you're right, though. I think it does take a personality type, but from a humanity standpoint, I mean, obviously you need to have something, because, well, tell you what, we're going to dive back into this and circle back into, talking more about the 2001 Miami Hurricane roster. But we're going to take a quick break. I need a beer, and Dan needs to go make some powdered sugar disappear. So we'll be right back. We'll be right. All right, welcome back, everybody. That first commercial was for the Really Good podcast, which airs bi-weekly right here on Tuesdays on Pinfall. Going into all things TV and movie related. I know this next episode, they're going to be talking about raunchy animation. Dan and I watched a lot of that. So definitely check that out. You can follow Pinfall and follow us online through all the social medias, through YouTube, Pinfall Stream.
We're not talking about hentai up in here.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about
confusing raunchy animation with anime pornography is what I tend to view. And
that's just your Pornhub search history, though. That's okay.
Use my Yahoo.
And then the second commercial was for Drop the Mic podcast. Music podcast, diving into all things of music, news, topics, and so on. That will be the opposite Tuesdays, every other Tuesday on Pinfall right here at 10 Eastern. Really good features, Josh and Kay. And then Drop the Mic is going to be Josh and Pun going into all things music. And then that last podcast.
Fill of me on Tuesdays.
You what?
Get your weekly fill of me on Tuesdays.
I get your
weekly fill of me on Tuesdays.
Oh, okay. So we're putting a day to it now. I have to pick a day to fill you up. I can't just do it whenever I want anymore.
You're allowed anytime you want, Tony.
Okay,
anytime.
All right. I love being in a company where I can sexually harass the boss. It makes me feel like a normal person.
I see. I don't get. I see why you got the board of directors, huh?
Yeah, I had to earn it.
Ooh, I just needed to figure out who's rod to grease. That's the whole thing around here, huh? Hey.
You just missed it. That last podcast though that last commercial was for a podcast with me and Will Morgan, the host of Sports Report, on Thursday nights right here on Pinfall at 10 Eastern, going into all things dad culture, dad news, talk a lot about mental health and just how to be better parents. So definitely check us out there. All right, buddy. So let's jump back into this. So what do we do? I mean, ultimately, like, are there things that we can do to encourage, to set these individuals better up after, especially because they have to spend so much time hearing you're so good, you're the best, you're everything, all of that. Like, what do we do?
I honestly don't know, because it's completely up to the individual, really. Because I mean, this lifestyle is it's such a huge. With the fame, and especially in America, let's be honest, like obviously in America, it's like on steroids, just the culture of worshiping athletes essentially. And man, I don't know. Like I said, my only solution to it is to have all these guys get them, you are only a man guy. Hey, you ain't even the best receiver in the league. Richard Sherman, you're not even close to the best safety in the NFL anymore. What are you doing?
And that's the thing, though, but I think I think teams have a vested interest in working and doing more for the mental health and future life of these players. And the reason why I say this, because like even if, it's circling back and referencing this roster, like if you look at, like, let's say Frank Gore, okay, we'll just use that because that's just the biggest name I saw as I was scrolling through the list. Frank Gore's impact on the NFL is it would take mathematicians weeks to really come up with.
Large. So when you have all of that money at stake, you want the talented individual, and I support that. Talented individuals should get the ability to shine the crowd. But shouldn't teams have a vested interest into having more of a process in place to deal with the mental well-being of these individuals? Tony, that's such a good question. I honestly don't. I don't think we can put it on anybody. I mean, it's just so hard to handle that I don't blame any of these guys for breaking under that pressure, because most of them do, let's be honest, at some point.
Yeah.
Like, most of them are going to go on to live pretty normal, like, pretty good lives, quite honestly. Like, usually they have a little bit of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, the CTE issues is a whole different thing, because I think that's a little bit rampant. I think that a lot of these guys start drinking when they get older and stuff because they don't know what the fuck's going on in their heads. They're depressed.
They're in so much pain.
They're in so much pain, and they're just on painkillers, and they're just, their mind's going 7 different directions because they just dropped off this cliff that they were on for 30 years of their life, right? They were on this huge high, and then they dropped off the end of it, and they got nothing but pain and fucking golf carts. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just driving golf carts around their gated communities, like whacked out on a bunch of OxyContin because they hurt so bad because they got their fucking asses beat for 15 years. Like, Frank Gore is going to be in some pain. If Brett Favre is not addicted to OxyContin right now, I would be very, very surprised. And I don't blame him one bit.
I think, though, that part of that, because at least I've noticed a lot of former athletes are starting to reference like CBD supplements and stuff like that. And, investing in CBD companies, talking about the benefits. Like, Chiefs Hall of Fame kicker Nick Lowry has a CBD company. When Gronk stepped away from the NFL, he invested in a CBD. He started at a CBD company. Like, there are, so I think that things like that. I think that's something that can help. Because they turned their focus into finding a solution for the pain, but they're still. Frank Gore's already hurting. Like, there's no way he's not. And
that OxyContin is just a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, dude.
And it's doing more damage to his body than the pain that it's covering up is worth.
And the thing is, he's actually just like been one of those masters of. Frank Gore doesn't take shots. Like, that's Frank Gore's number one skill, has been his entire career. I've been watching him for a long time. He doesn't take solid shots. Like, he literally has figured out how to get down off of taking any kind of impact. Like, he's so twitchy, and he's so quick that he can see what's going to be bad, and he can get out of it right at the last second. And it's super strange, dude. It's like a super strange skill, but like, that's what's kept him around. So like, he actually probably isn't as bad, even though he's played longer. He isn't as bad. Where somewhere like Adrian Peterson, if you watch some of Adrian Peterson's highlights, dude, he takes fucking shots from dudes all the time because he runs high. And he's so fast. And yes, and they're so high when they're running. Like, that if you clip them when they're off their feet like that at an angle, these guys are, you're gonna fuck them up because they're going so fast. And like, and Frank Gore's never been like that. Frank Gore doesn't. When's the last time you even saw Frank Gore run in the open field? That dude's always got like four dudes around him. Like, they're all grabbing his thighs and shit. And he's like shaking them off real quick and like keep him going. And then he just like falls down at the end of it and gets 2 yards. And you're like, all right.
Well, but that's 2 yards you would have gotten with somebody else outside of maybe like Derrick Henry.
No, I'm saying like 4-yard run. He gets 2 after, just from falling down on top of the right place. Like, because he's just so crafty.
Okay, well, yeah. But that's still. That's still an extra 2 yards you're not getting with some of those other guys. And but you look at this roster, and just this picture how much money was tied up has been tied up in the NFL that has passed through the NFL's fingers because of a list of, because of 20 guys on a list of 50 that just completely blew things away in the NFL.
Right. I mean, like taking shots and stuff with like back to the Frank Gore thing real quick, like taking shots like Frank Gore, not taking shots like Frank Gore. These dudes are getting in car crashes, man, every single day. And then didn't they just start the medical deal with them where they get Medicare afterwards? That just started. That's not very long. Like
it's not. And that's the thing. Or like the other thing, and I think this will be a good thing because we haven't really got to dive into this very much, you and I, in our off time. But the NFL just now changed the competency test for Black players for whether or not they should be eligible for that extra, one of the things that helps determine if they should be eligible for that extra care because of the concussion damage after. Black players were given a different measure of intelligence for where they were before to where they are now. And so they were giving them lower levels from before to where they are now. So there was less of a drop and more of them were not qualifying for that extra help that the NFL is supposed to be giving these players. They just now changed that.
Okay. That's weird. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Like, how is that a fucking problem?
Yeah. I don't understand why are they not just evaluating them person to person? You know what I'm saying? Like, did it matter at the beginning? I don't know what the hell happened there. That's
that was the thing. And that's why I don't understand it, because they're using that intelligence grade as a determining metric for how bad the concussion damage was while they were playing.
That's not how it works.
Exactly. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah. This is the NFL again screwing over Black players. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whenever I have to chuckle whenever a player just like tells the truth one time and he's like, I feel it's kind of like we're slaves. And I'm like, yeah, I every time I just chuckle. I'm like, he's not wrong. Like that is
he's not.
Some fucked up shit, but he's not wrong. Like he's just not right. And like they'll just slip it out every once in a while. Like, yeah, like this guy just said that the owners are like slave owners. And I'm like, I mean, is he wrong though, or is that just like? And like, it seems like that's a lot of people's reactions, which is a good thing. Like, is he wrong though? Because, that's rough. Those guys are just up there in their mansions.
And that's the thing though, is when you look at, and this is why I don't understand why it was such a problem for the NFL to back its Black players, which shouldn't have been a problem. Like the NBA clearly did a better job in that regard, like just hands down. But it shouldn't have taken that long, especially in this isn't necessary. This isn't meant to be a racial stereotype. A lot of the players in the NFL today are Black.
Yeah, it's like 70%.
Despite that, and that's where a lot of your revenue is coming from. A lot of these individuals are tremendous athletes, and that's fantastic. I support. Why are you going to bite the hands that feed you? Because, I mean,
what are you doing? That's where it gets kind of slavey to me. Like I hate to keep saying that. Like that's where it gets kind of slavey to me. Is I'm like you're still like, yes, they're getting paid, so they're not. I get they're not slaves, but like at the same time, you're treating them politically almost, and as like an organization, like you own them, which is
I mean, like look at the contracts that NFL players have to sign. Or any athlete has to sign. It's this thick, and it's all shit you can't do. That's what this contract is.
Right.
First page is how much you're getting paid. The rest of that contract is all the shit you can't do and why they're paying you that much to be a football player or a basketball player, baseball player, whatever.
Exactly. It's why that number is so big on the front because of the rest of the pages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you have all of these exceptional individuals. Like, yes, on the college level, it's very rare to see rosters like what happened in 2001 Hurricanes. Like that's why we use that as kind of the focal point, the starting point for everything that we did. But when you look in the NFL, though, because they're pulling from all of those college rosters across D1 and D2 and D3 and all these schools, every single one of these NFL rosters, for the most part, is stacked with individuals that in multiple different fashions are being used as a commodity by the NFL.
Right. But totally agreeing to be used as a commodity by the NFL.
Right. I mean, that next man up slogan that you hear in sports isn't just for the team, it's for the business too.
Right.
This guy's gone, who's up next?
Yeah. I just have if you sign the contract as well, you sign the contract. I mean, the stipulations within the contract are these things, and we're going to say it's not right, but that doesn't mean that it's not actually in black and white, quite literally. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is things that come with that paycheck. I understand that there's levels of responsibility socially, and
I did certain pieces I understand.
Right, but also, what's up, Matt? But also they go from they're just taking it a little bit to like they own the commodity. Yes, like you said, like they are commodities being used at this point and being used to their detriment physically. Physically, right?
So I think we're in a little over for a break. So let's go ahead and go to a break here. When we come back, we're going to keep moving into this because, you know, obviously we've got some great stuff going on. So stick with us right here on Sports Report After Dark. I'm Pinfall.
Up like we do. No one does us like we do. Always go hard with this crew. Welcome to the show, let's make moves. Nothing's gonna stop us, it's about to get rough. Turn the whole room up, it's never enough. Let's go, 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 let's go.
Not to cut you off, Tony, but I wanted to pop in and talk real quick. Geek Gauntlet, that is still 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Saturdays. If you want to catch it live, catch it on William Morgan's Twitch page. He just affiliated, has to be there exclusive to Twitch. So he just affiliated, catch Geek Gauntlet there. The recordings will be up on all pinfall pages as of Mondays. Or actually Tuesday mornings, 48 hours. Tuesday mornings. So on Tuesday mornings, you can catch the recordings there, catch it live on William Morgan's Twitch page.
And that second commercial was for Double XP. That airs on Wednesdays at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. That will be, and that just came back. That is Kay and Punisher Sisters Talking Gaming. Great podcast. I dive into all things gaming, even talk to some small streamers sometimes in the past. It's a great show. And then that last commercial was for Sports Report. That is the show that airs before we do here on Monday nights, right here on Pinfall, hosted by Will Morgan, featuring me, Dan, Tony C, and whoever else we can trick into showing up. So definitely check that out.
And he missed one. Check
I knew I missed one. I did the Pinfall one, wasn't it?
Pinfall podcast. We just came back last night, had a great interview with Chase Matthews. You're gonna not want to miss Sunday's episode. Me and Will have already sit down and had our interview with Luke Curtis. It was amazing. I've got to say, it was one of my better interviews I've done, and doing this for a year now. It was a great interview, so you're gonna want to check that out. And guys, I'm gonna pop back in here right before you're done, because I'm gonna throw in a producer segment today.
Okay.
I'm gonna come in with a question, and you're gonna have exactly 1 minute to give me your answer to that question. So once y'all are done, y'all keep an eye on it. About 50, I'm going to pop back in.
Okay. All right. So let's jump back in here. So, okay. So I understand what you're saying, that they're signing a contract to be used as a commodity for the NFL. But in that same regard, when somebody goes into a public service position where they're in danger, we'll say police, firefighters, first responders in general, military, they're doing the same thing. They're signing themselves up to be used as a tool for the government, putting their lives on the line, putting themselves at risk. And and the standard that we expect as people is that these individuals aren't going to suffer because of that.
Right. That's also for the government.
Why shouldn't that translate into the private sector in these type of situations?
Because that's capitalism, baby. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's those guys, unfortunately, in some cases, made those companies so that they could do things like they wanted to, right? I mean, and that's, yes, they operate under a organized body at this point, but they're still, there's owners of teams, clearly. I think most of which are older white men, just off the top.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it has to be the Medicare thing's awesome. And that should have been the base point. But I don't think I don't think at this point you can do it. Like what you're going to be doing with all these rule changes in the NFL is just making it a worse game, when I think that if these guys are willing to do that, because these guys, like if you ask these dudes, guaranteed they understand that they are killing their bodies, and you know what I'm saying? Like they are quite possibly messing with their brain health by playing the sport, and they don't care because it supports their family. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like these dudes are fucking gladiators, man, for real. They are hard-working motherfuckers that are willing to do pretty much anything for their families and shit, like for people that they love. It's super crazy. Like, but they're gladiators.
My thing is though, no, and I think that you're right. Yes, they are. Athletes are our modern day gladiators. It may not be now. Yes, things like UFC and boxing, or even to an extent like WWE and AEW. They are the ones that are fighting, and there's the blood and the violence and stuff like that.
Right.
But because society has become more refined, our gladiators aren't just beating each other up with their fists or with blades. They're using their bodies. There's an objective involved. It's kind of like how multiplayer on gaming evolved. First, it was just kill each other. Now there's objectives.
Right. Like the Mayans playing the head soccer game where they put like basketball and soccer mixed together. You know what I'm talking about? And they play it with human heads. They play it with sacrificial heads. I mean, hey, that's pretty much the NBA now, right? Huh, Tony? Huh? No, I'm just kidding.
It's
but
I do think that there needs to be that there's multiple reasons why there needs to be better. I'm not necessarily going to say investment because I know there's a lot of money tied up into what they're doing now. I think there needs to be better infrastructure from the beginning when it comes to how these athletes are cared for. Because, like I we've kind of said it on Sports Report a couple of times. Or we said it last week on Sports Report, and I know you and I have talked about it. But we need to stop looking for some type of a physical sign of CTE and just recognize these common traits and treat it as such and try to figure it out.
Treat it as because it is a mental health. It's a mental health. I mean, it's a disease at this point. I mean, it like quite literally, it follows every aspect of a major mental disorder towards the end for the last couple months they're alive. And then it turns out to be absolute, like, I don't even know what you would call that. Some kind of, it's schizophrenia, sort of. It's like it's kind of like a degree of schizophrenia. I think. I have no idea. Like the only thing I just read about how they act and stuff. Obviously, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't really know how to diagnose that. But it seems like something obviously to that level because they kill everyone around them and then kill themselves within.
Or I mean, even if it's just that they kill themselves. Like, I mean, what was that? The kid with the Chiefs, was it Javon Belcher? Was that his name?
Yeah. Yeah, he killed
his girlfriend and then killed himself right there at Arrowhead Stadium. Like,
yeah,
there is, because it's clear from what we figured out so far that a majority of CTE has to be neurological. It's not something you're going to see on necessarily on a CT scan or an MRI. There's signs that something clearly is not right, because yesterday that guy knew his address, and today he doesn't. Clearly, there's a problem. Whether he was never whether we start treating it as, we have to start treating it as like, when you get older, Alzheimer's,
yes,
or
that's what it.
The earlier stages of that.
And if you listen
dementia,
to
dementia, that's the word I was thinking of, ironically enough. Dementia. Combining dementia along with maybe even, medicines like seizure medications that help seizure patients with, regulating neurological communications. There are, at this point, they have every reason to just throw spaghetti against the wall and see what fucking sticks. Because we're going to keep having problems, whether it's Junior Seau, Javon Belcher, Chris Benoit. These are all going to be problems continually, and it's only going to get worse until they actually do what they need to do.
And I think that we're mistaking it too at some points and thinking like, these guys are young, dude. Like, yeah, somebody's got, like, the guys that they figured out that they have it sometimes die of natural causes and they test them for it and it comes out that they have CTE or whatever. Some of these guys are young. I think Junior Seau was like 46. Javon Belcher was 26 years old. I mean, this stuff is coming on like quick. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys are getting hit in the head from a very young age. It's coming on quick. It's not just happening and dudes are retired. This is in the NFL today. There's guys in the NFL. Yeah.
And that's where I think the crucial, I think that's where the sticking point is, because we need, if we're going to allow these activities to take place, first of all, we need to be more specific on things like no full contact until high school, because it is very clear that the earlier it starts, the more damage it could do.
Right.
That's just simple. That's just across the board.
It needs to be flat.
And as a dad, I have to say that if you're putting your kids through full contact sports and they're not at least in high school, I'm going to call you out and tell you that you're doing a shitty job as a parent. You're putting your child at risk. You're setting your child up for failure. Because when you look at the limited chances that someone is going to make it as a professional athlete, that's not to knock the craft and the drive to get there.
Right.
An overwhelming majority of kids aren't going to get there. And so you're going to put them out in the professional world with already potentially having damage and CTE.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just like for some of these guys, they want to see their son succeed. Some of these women, they want to see their son succeed or their daughter succeed. Clearly, like that's the drive behind it. But a lot of it is just vanity. And in some of these bigger places, like they just want their son to be good at sports. You know what I'm saying? Or their daughter to be good at sports. Like that's what they want. And like that's like the takeoff of it is like that's it for what? And football anyway. Like play any other sport. We're talking specifically football here, by the way. It's like pretty much just football. Or
well, I mean, but you have to look at it with like even with other sports like hockey.
Right.
You know, hockey games, even for kids, when they're full contact, because yes, that's a thing. It happens. I know. It shouldn't be a thing because yes, we're not hearing as much about it because hockey's not as publicized of a sport. But if you go into Minnesota, Michigan, New York, Ohio, any of those northern states, even Washington, you get into, these kids are playing hockey in full contact and full checking and losing teeth and getting concussions and broken bones.
Obviously in Canada.
And obviously, all over Canada as well. Like this is a common practice. And these are individuals which statistically are not going to be a professional athlete. And now we're putting them out into the world. They have impaired cognitive abilities.
Right.
So they're more of a hindrance in workforces. Yes, they can do labor, but that one cognitive disconnect because their mind is messed up. And all of a sudden you've got an accident and somebody gets killed.
Right.
I guess like labor jobs are dangerous, just like sports.
You've got a living example of you right here.
Exactly.
You got a living example of it. I got hit in the head for 12 years, just all the time. Hey, look at me. Exactly. Kids.
And you were, and you didn't even make it to being a pro athlete. Not to be disrespectful, but like you did not get to that level.
I didn't even have a shot, bro. I would have had to have been like one of those 27-year-old like Canadian Football League draft picks. You know what I'm saying? Like fifth round, sneaks in because he might have some slot receiver talent, right? Like my top of the line ceiling was like Cooper Kupp. Like that was like the top of whatever. Like if I would have worked every day of my life to be an NFL player, which clearly I did not. Cooper Kupp or like maybe like Brandon Stokely on a high ceiling, like Brandon Stokely on a high level, and that was if everything would have went right. If everything went right,
you think you could have made it to Tebow's level?
No way. I was never going to be as good a football player as Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, say what you want about Tim Tebow, dude. That dude is a fucking good football player. Is he a professional level? I mean, no, because he played the wrong position. Don't tell me that if Tim Tebow didn't play tight end from when he was really young and didn't play left-handed quarterback, that Tim Tebow wouldn't have had a longer career in the NFL. Probably more successful career in the NFL.
And I think you're right. I think if that's the environment that Tim Tebow comes up in, and I'm not going to say as good as Travis Kelce, but we would be comparing him to Travis Kelce on a regular basis because they would be in the same conversation.
I don't know about all that, Tony. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. I think
but I mean, look at this though. But look at the Kelce brothers though. Come on, let's be real. I mean, those guys were raised to be football players. They were raised in those positions. And look at how good they were. Travis and Jason Kelce are solid football players. So you can't tell me that if Tebow came up in that thing and that was his focus, yes, he doesn't have the same number of playoff wins at quarterback as Lamar Jackson, which I still think is my favorite football stat, by the way.
1-1.
Yeah. He has the same number of playoff wins as Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that Tim Tebow is not going to be in that conversation. Look at how jacked he is at training camp right now in Jacksonville.
He'll come out and he's going to surprise some people because they're going to put him in every position to surprise some people. You know that
they're going to try using him as a Taysom Hill type player, and it's not going to work. They need to just leave him at tight end.
You know that Tebow and Urban Meyer are just like in the office before the game, like with candles lit and a Bible, like fucking both their hands on it, like just summoning the power of Satan, like out of the like dark realms of the religious Florida world into the gun. Like Tebow's got a frog leg for some reason. Urban Meyer doesn't know why.
They're just summoning all of the Florida man energy into Tim Tebow so that he can just go out and catch 3 passes for 10 yards.
He just turns into a Monstar from the first Space Jam movie, just like the purple one. Like he just like is lined up at tight end. He's just like bigger than everybody else. It's like the smart Hulk. It's like the smart Hulk from Endgame, playing tight end.
Okay.
All the green power.
All right,
Josh,
so
what do you want
we're
to
gonna
ask?
wrap
I
this up.
got a question for you too, Josh. Whenever you get on here.
Yeah, so I'll take the lead on this. I'll ask the first question, and then we'll kind of go in. Well, Dan, you can do yours, and then Josh, you can wrap us up. All right. So my first question is: out of that roster for the 2001 Hurricanes, who do you think had the most impact on the NFL?
Is that to me?
Yeah.
Andre Johnson.
Why?
No, sorry. Ed Reed. Change my answer. Ed Reed. Then Andre Johnson. Or
so
like
you
they're
put,
like
okay, so you'd still put Johnson above Frank Gore?
Yeah.
Why?
I think because I think Andre Johnson was better. He was a shorter period of time, obviously. Frank Gore's obviously the Cal Ripken of the NFL. So like I think that Andre Johnson for a 6-year period there was better than Frank Gore has ever imagined to be in the NFL at his position.
I'm biased on this because Johnson bleeds Texans, so
right.
I'm biased. But I tend to agree, and I would even agree that Ed Reed is above. I would say it's Ed Reed, Johnson, Gore. And
that's where I would go too.
Gore, I agree on a different list is number 1 because he's proven to be an Iron Man. Like the man just doesn't quit. Like it's insane that he's still playing. But Johnson brought a team that had nobody, absolutely nobody, and turned them in, even though they could never like fully cash in on it. He turned the Texans into a competitive team for several years and got players like Foster and Watt and Cushing and all of those guys interested in playing for the Texans. If it had not been for Andre Johnson, the Texans would still be a B-class NFL team. And I'm not saying they aren't there right now, but they had a time where they were in the talks of multiple sports writers of being Super Bowl contenders.
Andre Johnson made the Texans cool.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
He made the Texans cool. I even thought, like, I loved Reliant Stadium, dude. Like, that was, like, my favorite NFL stadium. And, like, I loved the logo and, like, everything. And a lot of it was because I loved Andre Johnson. He was a freak. 6'3", 230, just out there, quick feet, 4.3 40 speed, just
I'll even go on to say, if it's not for Andre Johnson, you don't get D-Hop.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would support that.
Andre Johnson was a lot like DK Metcalf, but not on. DK Metcalf's just like the roided out newer version.
Right. He was on a smaller scale, but I think that though, and I think that this is one of those things that maybe just comes from them having spent the time together that they did in college, but. Andre Johnson and Frank Gore were both, like, you were kind of alluding to it earlier, Dan, just very elusive running backs. Like they were good at evading coverage. They were good at getting around that spot, getting through that hole that shouldn't have been there, and turning a 4-yard run into a 6-yard run.
Well, you got to remember, Andre Johnson revitalized the position of wide receiver. Like he did. He turned wide receiver into a position. He played it like no other guy had played it because he was big enough to understand the running back position and to understand how he can use his size and his advantage. And I'm sorry, but the video of Andre Johnson whooping that Titan's ass will be one of my favorite videos to ever watch. Him just wailing on the guys in the back of the head.
Oh yeah, it's I know exactly what you're talking about. It's what was that dude's name? He used to get in his shit with everybody.
All the time.
He used to get in his shit with everybody. But the dude that he was fighting used to get in his shit with everybody too. The guy from the Titans. I can't remember his name. He had like blonde hair. I remember he had like the blonde. He had like the blonde little. But
well, and it was said by Arian Foster when all this stuff was coming out with Deshaun, and Andre actually made a comment, which Andre doesn't do.
No.
You, to piss off or frustrate Andre Johnson, you got to do some fucked up shit. Because he literally watched the Texans climb to prominence and then self-destruct plummet under Bill O'Brien and still managed to keep his cool most of the time with that team.
What did he say about Deshaun Watson?
He said that before all the criminal stuff. This was just when Deshaun had decided he didn't want to play for Houston anymore. He said Deshaun was in the right, and I agreed with that too. Like, Texans weren't making the right decisions, and this guy was going to destroy his career and just like for nothing because they weren't making the right decisions to help him where he needed help.
Right.
And even as a fan, even as a guy who's been a fan for next year will be 20 years since the Texans became an NFL franchise. Yeah. And I've been a fan that whole time until all this. And I don't take judge on all this stuff going with Deshaun because all of it, and we've discussed this on the Sports Report, all of it right now is just the court of public opinion. There's really been no hard proof. Yes, there's court cases going on, but nothing has come out yet. So in just taking that, Deshaun was in the right. Like, he was in the right to request a trade. He was in the right to not want to play for this team that, well, and not just that, blatant out and out lied to him, promised him that he would be in on the interviews for head coach and GM and didn't have him in on any of those interviews.
Either one.
Yep.
I'm all about player mobility, so I'm all with Deshaun Watson. Like, I think he should get what he can get right now because his career's not very long, and he doesn't need to be wasting away in a place where they are literally using a dude that sits on the Houston Texans. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, that I might be a little bit behind, but he was on their board of directors or something. The dude had zero knowledge in football or any kind of business. He was
you're talking about Jack Easterby. Easterby was the Patriots character coach. He's a chaplain. He was brought in by Bill O'Brien to be our character coach, and for somehow, some way, is now the vice president of football operations, only reporting to a bigger dumbass, and that is in Cal McNair. Sorry.
There you go.
The thing for me, like, if we look at, because obviously, like, Dan and I have gone into deeper discussions on conspiracy theories about the Deshaun Watson thing, but not diving into that because we don't have time. When you look at the situation that he was dealing with,
it's funky.
When you look at the situation he was dealing with, it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers wanting to get out of Green Bay. They were not taking care of their MVP. Okay. When Kansas City drafted Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith knew a month beforehand.
Yep.
Hey, are you okay? You understand what's going to happen? We're going to take care of you and get you in a place where you can be successful.
Yeah.
That's how you handle that conversation. The second that Green Bay drafted Jordan Love, I knew Aaron Rodgers was going to lose his shit. I'm not saying he's a diva. I just knew it was going to happen because he was pissed. He should have been. And Deshaun Watson has a business to run, his brand. So with all of these allegations notwithstanding, like, I'm not, that's because this is just hearsay at this point.
Out of the picture right now.
Nothing. Yeah. He was justified in wanting to get out of Houston. I don't blame him. And I think when everything settles down, and he does, he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with for whoever grabs him and puts him on the field.
And as a guy who follows Houston football news constantly, supposedly they are actually finally listening to teams' offers as far as putting him.
They don't have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. He was at practice this whole week. He played on the scout team. I think he took like a couple of reps each day, but that was it. That's all they did with him. He wasn't in on the meetings. He wasn't at OTA, so he doesn't know really how things are working.
He doesn't give a fuck how things are working.
Which is fine. To me, as a fan of the Texans, if he's given up, let's move on. We've already said that this is a rebuilding year anyway, so let's make it the rebuilding year. Get what we – and I understand they're wanting to sit on them to see if all this goes away and they can get what they were being offered 6 months ago. But at this point in time, your time's up.
You're not gonna.
Season's
You're not
coming.
gonna.
We need to take what we can get for him right now, which I still think is probably pretty good of the things that would be offered, because some team is going to try and start him this year as long as he doesn't end up on the on Roger Goodell's list. So it, to me, let's move on. I love Deshaun. I do. I thought he was our savior, but we've lost him. We've lost JJ. And as much as I think the GM and the coach have made good decisions going forward, Deshaun is not going to play for Cal McNair. It has nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that he doesn't trust Cal now. Cal fucked him. He's fucked him on multiple occasions. He's lied to him. And I personally, I wouldn't want to play for an owner like that either. So,
And here's the thing. Philadelphia right now, with the season getting ready to start and them knowing what they're facing, you can get Jalen Hurts for Deshaun Watson. You are going to be better off risking it for a year with Jalen Hurts under center, because you either have a winning season or you get a really good draft pick to put pressure on him.
But it fits the rebuild too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It does.
Jalen would be a good – that's my thing too. If we're in rebuild, let's go find a QB that we can build around that wants to be a Texan. Because you had that shot with Watson. You blew it. You did.
Yep.
You blew it. And no one blew it more than Bill O'Brien. I will give that. But and Cal McNair for keeping Bill O'Brien as long as he did. But it's time to move on from Deshaun. Let's find someone like Jalen Hurts, or even the guy they've got that they say is going to be under center right now. I can't even remember his name. But let's find somebody and make him the franchise guy right now. And let's move on. And also, let's get out from the publicity that Deshaun, the negative publicity that right now that Deshaun is bringing to the Texans. We already have enough stuff going on as far as building what is a brand new team, like new coaches, new GM.
Or you guys are doing your thing now. No, but you know what? There's
Carl, I'll give you Deshaun Watson.
Yep, he'd take it in a second.
Gruden would shake his hands, rub one out, and sign the fucking paperwork.
You're even hoping Deshaun get him out of Houston, where he's constantly taking flack right now. Get him out of here. He doesn't need it any more than we need it. So
with these allegations, he can't be safe in the city of Houston. Because some of those crazy motherfuckers will just do stupid shit.
You're telling me I grew up there.
Do you think it's hard for him to find? Hey, do you think it's hard for him to find a massage therapist now?
I mean,
if I were him, he wouldn't buy him. He wouldn't sign one with an NDA. We had this conversation. You weren't here last week, but we had this conversation.
Apparently, it's the only way to get off, Josh.
Huh?
Apparently, it's the only way Deshaun Watson can,
Well,
get
I
off.
mean, we talked about it on the sports report last week, Dad. You weren't there, but it's not like other players aren't getting happy endings. But what they do is they go out and hire their own massage therapist and have them sign an NDA, and then it's all done.
Something about it to him, bro. If this is the psychology side of sports after dark, something about him wants to have that randomness, and he wants all those different girls because he wants to replay some kind of scenario every time. That's what he's doing. He's replaying something in that guy's mind triggers him to sexually like it, and he needs to have the random. That's why he was scrolling through all those girls, is because he needs him to be a different chick. I think something about the familiarity probably bothers him about it. Does that make sense?
And I think that, well, and when you look at from watching criminal, from shows, if you watch shows like Criminal Minds or SVU, one of the things that they always talk about that's, very valid is the progression of somebody that tends to be, a predator of some kind, whether it's physical aggression, like a serial killer, or even, sexual predators. There's a progression, but there's a specific, but there's a consistency to what they prefer. And so like when you look at this, like Dan's exactly right. Like if this is all true, part of it is it's the different massage therapists and the whole environment, the nerves that come up with that, and the will she will she do this willingly or will it be by force? That type of a scenario that he gets off on. That's exactly the psychology side.
And like you said, Tony, like the progression of it, he probably started and didn't ever intend for him to want. He didn't probably ever want to force a woman to do anything to him. But the sexual fantasy at some point got to the point where he was like, I need that to happen. So if she doesn't want to do it, I'm going to make that happen. And that's what it got to.
And it may not be about the force. It may just be that he just wants it, and that's the part that matters.
And that's fucked. But at the same time, that's what's probably going on in his head is like, I needed to do this, so we're gonna make it happen. Like that's fucked up, and like that's probably what was going on.
You're exactly right.
That conversation went a little longer than I expected. But Dan, you had a question for me, and then this is the premiere episode, so we can go a little long.
I was carrying my light over to light my thing. I got the little holder here and stuff, and I sprained my elbow a little bit. Is there any way that Pinfall can cover that on like a medical after? I was wondering if maybe you could get. It's just
there's no workman's comp, Dan. There's no workman's
doctor.
No
I'm just trying to get. Do you validate parking?
Hey, tell you what. Our team.
Also, I know you're under the influence, and we require a drug test. We require a drug test.
Which drugs you want him to test?
I mean, I'm just gonna get one of them fake dicks and put it in there. With the, you know what I'm saying? I'll just get some infant's urine because I don't know anybody that doesn't smoke weed either. So. Wait, Tony, send me some of yours. Oh shit, that doesn't work either.
Yeah, that's not gonna work either. We start getting drug tests, and I'm screwed.
My question was gonna be more serious and kind of get a quick answer on a heavy topic from y'all. So
try me.
I want to know y'all's opinion on women intergender sports. You got 1 minute. And I'm going to highlight it in the fact, let's just look at a lower contact sport, something that are very similar. Men and women playing baseball and softball together.
Your question causes so many questions, Josh.
Okay, so as a quick answer, I'll go first. Hopefully Dan can kind of figure this out and keep us from getting canceled. I think that on paper, when you talk about equality and looking at this type of a subject, yes, there's even been a women's baseball league. There's a league of their own. The movie starring Tom Hanks is an American classic. They're doing a series right now. They're getting ready to start it. And we're doing a league of their own, a TV series. I think it's Amazon that's doing it, if I remember correctly. That looks really good. I can't remember off the top of my head who they cast for the coach, but it's a really good pick. Oh, Nick Offerman. Nick Offerman is going to be the coach. Yeah, seriously good casting for that. But there is a but the truth of it is, in a lot of situations, the physical makeup of biological males and biological females are such that something like that, there's too many variables at play, too many specific things on certain things where men would have the advantage, especially when it comes to power and hitting. I mean, we look at the WNBA. It's so, you don't see as much dunking in the WNBA because the women aren't as tall. That's just a biological difference. It's not a slight against those women. I love watching WNBA games. But, you lower, just like Shaq said, lowering the height of the rim would bring that in and add a viewership to it. It's about, if you're going to do something, it would need to be about equity, because how are you going to compensate the difference in the men's power versus what the women can do when they get up the bat? Do you give them a bat that, do you give them a setup that's going to give them the ability to hit the ball farther than the men would be able to with the regular setup? Like, how do you balance it out to make it? How do you, to make the actual equity there? Because otherwise it's honestly just legitimately not fair.
I guess my reason, and I want to get Dan's opinion, I want to explain this question just a little bit. My reason for bringing this up is for the fact that women's sports don't normally do well in America. You look at the WNBA, it's been around for 20 plus years, and constantly we're hearing rumors of the WNBA is going to close. Now, really, The NBA just needs to buy the WNBA and really put some money into it, and it could be a successful league. And I agree, lowering the rim, making the slam dunk a more popular thing in women's basketball would help it immensely. But in America, I just don't know if a solo women's league is ever going to catch on. So is the way to make it more equal is to figure out the way that men and women can play some of these sports together. I realize football, you're asking for trouble in that level of the physicality.
Mixed martial arts.
I think well, honestly, like soccer, I think would be the sport that would be the closest to possibly being beat. Because whereas a men's game is a little bit more physical strength-wise, women's soccer is more kind of like with basketball, but on a much bigger scale. It's more about speed and finesse. And so I think that would be the closest sport where you might actually be able to see some balance. And I think a co-ed soccer thing could make it a little bit more interesting on a viewership side of things. See Cristiano Ronaldo running up against Megan Rapinoe.
Cool.
They probably have the same person, they have the same haircut, so they probably already talk all the time anyway. They go to the same hairstylist.
Well, I'm sorry, but here in the U.S., the women's soccer team is always better than the men. So,
but that's the thing is I think that the soccer is really about the only sport where you're going to find any way close to where it would be possible and actually fair, because otherwise it's unfair to the female athletes that are just going to get burned.
Yeah. Dan, do you agree?
I'll try and I don't. I'll try and keep mine to the 60 seconds like we agreed on. Before 60 seconds. I don't know if anybody forgot about that, Tony, or not. But real quick, Tony, the reason that women cannot dunk it on a 10-foot rim is not because they are not tall enough. There are very, very many 6'3" or over women in the NBA that cannot dunk a basketball, right? How many 6'3" dudes in the NBA can't dunk a basketball? There's a correct answer. Zero.
Right.
Okay. All of them can dunk it. All of them. Okay. Just right off the top with that. Look at the statistics of any combine for any professional sport in the last 20 years. The NBA and the WNBA combines. Look at the vertical leaps. Look at the 40 times. Whatever you want to look at. Men translate to speed and athletics. That's it. I'm not saying anything more than that. I'm just saying that they do translate better to sports in general. Just because of the bigger, faster, stronger thing, that's obviously biological. That's obviously deep-seated in our biology. That's the only reason. That doesn't make us better. Just makes us more, I don't know, chimp-like. I don't like for real. Like we're just a little bit closer to being chimps still. But as far as that goes, I'm fine with it. Hey, here's my only thing about it. Don't reverse it back over. Dudes cannot go down, and can't go to women's sports now, because I got Canadian weightlifters breaking weightlifting records that they shouldn't even be in the same class for. Do you know what I'm saying? That's not fair to those actual women that are trying to break world records in weightlifting, to just have a man identify as a woman and come over and break their records. I think that's probably out of line.
See, when y'all have that discussion, I'm going to come on, because I have friends who have went through the change, and it changes your entire body structure. Like, it changes everything about you. You have to find that power again. You have to find all of it again. You don't keep, when you change from being on testosterone to estrogen, your whole body switches.
But
it does.
The people who are actually, yes, you're talking about people who are actually going through the proper steps, right, to make the transition. You're talking about people who are actually going through proper steps. Dude, some of these dudes breaking women's records right now are clearly just still men. They are not going through estrogen. They're not going through the estrogen treatments. They're not doing the correct things to actually make a transition, right? That's
before we transition,
you bring a point up, Dan, that I hadn't thought about. Truly. Like, when I think about that, I think about men or women who are truly going through the process. But yeah, there's probably people out there who are using what is hard for a lot of athletes in having to do this and using it to their advantage. And that's bullshit. And I agree. There should be some sort of test to say this person, label anybody.
Right. I think it has to come down to, if you're going to be somebody who has transitioned. If you are fully transitioned, Caitlyn Jenner, fully transitioned, can compete in women's sports. Go for it. Bruce Jenner with a wig cannot compete in women's sports.
Yes.
And neither one of them can fucking drive a car. But that's a different conversation.
I don't think you can take it on fully transitioned because just the thing, but I think it's, are you on estrogen treatments? Are you doing this, and that? Like, there needs to be a question. There needs to be some conversations with these athletes.
There needs to be some kind of threshold at some point, whether it's fully transitioning or some point in the middle. There needs to be a threshold that needs to be met to where it's actually equal for that gender that you're competing in.
Right.
Y'all brought up a point I had never thought about on that side of it. Truly.
And I'm with Dan on that one. Like, if they haven't transitioned, I'm sorry. Like, I appreciate that's where you want to go, and that's difficult to make that transition.
You need to start before you try to come and play for this sport.
You need to be doing that before you make the athletics jump, because that's only right.
Yep. It's an incredibly unfair playing field when there is people who are doing that to have an advantage. They are clearly doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and these women are working their asses off, and this dude is not doing anything. He's sitting on the couch and he's still lifting more than they are because, you know what I'm saying? Because he's still got the normal testosterone levels and everything. That is wrong. And that is what I'm trying to do. Because I think
I 100% agree with that. See, and this is going to be my last thought, and I'll let y'all get out of here. But see, that needs to be more talked about and thought of more than worrying about who is using what bathroom.
Here's the thing.
Yes,
I can tell you why it won't be, though, because you have two sides that talk about this conversation. Now I understand this is a generalization, so nobody at me, just hear out this explanation. We'll call it two sides of the coin: the CNN side, the Fox News side. CNN doesn't want to touch it because it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help. It doesn't help the rhetoric that they spew. And Fox doesn't want to touch it because, yes, it can support an argument that they have, but they have enough problems and enough negative flack that it's not an argument that they want to waste time on. It kind of happens fluidly. Every once in a while, you'll see it come across a Fox News site. Transgender person that hasn't transitioned yet, male to female, wins women's this. They'll mention it, but they're not going to spend a bunch of time on it because it's too much work to try and beat around that for all the people that are going to jump that it's a transgender without looking at what's actually going on. Yeah. And that's where the problem comes into. So it's not talked about because neither media side has the stones to actually have the fucking conversation.
Right. And it's such a perspective based subject too. You know what I'm saying? People don't look outside of their own perspective on it at all. So you're gonna have one view about it, and because they don't discuss it even amongst themselves, they don't ever become to a different thing on it. They just want to push that aside because it's almost like it's too important to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like it's too right there, and it's too like people are so worried about what other people's opinion of that is going to be, when if you just listen to what the other person's opinion is, maybe that will help you in finding your way to it, if that makes sense.
It's the Dave Chappelle thing. I've referenced this multiple times. When you look at how Dave Chappelle talks about how he feels about transgender, he doesn't hate them. He thinks it's weird. He's very clear about that position.
Right.
He is not afraid to offend people. He's just stating his opinion and how he feels. There are too many people that are afraid to say it's weird.
I understand.
Because they're too afraid, or to talk about race. They're too afraid to be challenged, or to be able to just have honest questions. I was watching a stand-up comic, Mark Norman, an amazing comic, and funny enough, looks a lot like Norm Macdonald and kind of has some similar feel to it. But the guy is amazing. If you get a chance, check him out. He's got a special on YouTube. It's over 40 minutes long. It's really fun. But he was talking about, he's like, people don't want to talk about it. He's like, he asked his friend, why aren't there a lot of black swimmers in the Olympics for the U.S.? Because with all of the talented black athletes, why is that not a thing? He said, that's just not part of our culture. A lot of the inner city stuff, there's not pools there. Oh, okay. And then somebody else tried to say that the question was racist. It wasn't. No, he was looking for understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Racism is ignorance. He was looking for understanding. That's not racist.
That's not racism. That's talking about the issues that people think are racist, just because they hear certain keywords in there.
Yep. Buzzwords.
Just
The
conversation.
buzzwords, yeah, buzzwords.
That's the thing, and we don't have the time to dive in, but like people don't listen to conversations anymore. They listen for buzzwords to trigger their opinion, which people think an opinion in today's day and age, people tend to think opinions make you right. Mean you're right.
Right.
Opinions are seen as currency, and people don't, when we were kids, when we grew up, our parents taught us to listen to understand. That was a key thing that we were all taught. Dan's dad also taught him how to, shotgun a PBR at 10 years old.
Speak for yourself, Tony. Good job.
But we were all that's that thing that they tell you as a kid. You want to listen to understand and then respond. That has disappeared in the world today. And that's why you see people that jump on the bandwagon to make fun of Britney Spears without understanding why she had her mental breakdown. People that jump on the bandwagon of Richard Sherman's just another entitled football player. No, there's a mental health issue going on there. They're just responding instead of understanding.
Yep.
100%.
But
all right, Tony, take us out.
All right. So, Dan, any final thoughts, buddy? Anything you want to promote coming up?
Fuck the Red Sox.
Oh.
Well, we'll see you in the postseason, buddy. Let me know. I'll be rested during that wild card match that you guys have to deal with.
I'll let you know how our 220 batting average, 18 home runs a game fucking lineup going for you. It's gonna be fucking unbelievable. We're gonna give up 19 runs, so that's gonna be the thing.
Who's your team?
John?
Dan?
The Yankees.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
And Josh, you got any final thoughts? Anything you want to promote, buddy?
No, y'all keep your eye out on Pinfall. More things coming. Our Twitch is coming. Patreon is in the works. There's tons of things coming. This show will eventually probably be a Patreon exclusive, so be on the lookout for that. Look at his face. Look at his face.
Shiny animations.
So, all right, y'all.
What's a Patreon show?
Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all those things.
For my wonderful producer, whose hair always looks like a snow cone, Josh. For Dan and his cocaine dealer, and myself. Thank you for checking out the premiere of Sports Report After Dark. You guys have a great night.
Josh and my girlfriend have the same haircut.